So before we get into the video, I want to give you two things. First of all, full 45-minute breakdown training of how to start and grow your own online coaching business. We've helped 11 people get to $1 million a year and over 70 people get to multiple six figures a year. It's completely free training, links below. And if at any point during this video you're intrigued by what you're learning, you can tell that we know our stuff and you'd like to speak with us directly about helping you start or grow your business, you can use the link in the description to schedule a one-to-one private Zoom consult with myself or my team, and we'll see if we can serve you further. Anyway, on to the video. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I learned sales from scratch with no experience and how learning sales led to me selling over $3 million worth of stuff by the age of 22. Sales is one of these things that a lot of people really overcomplicate. They either make it all about the technique and all about kind of persuading using like manipulation and really shady tactics, or they try and just friendly their way into a sale. And I think that there's a happy middle ground between sort of those two techniques, one being kind of a little bit shady and the other being kind of like just trying to butter the prospect into making a decision. Somewhere in between, I think, is the golden middle ground. I'm going to talk about that in this video today, and I'll talk about how you can probably make more sales in your company. So to talk a little bit about what it is that I've sold this entire time, I run a company where we help people start and grow online coaching-based or service-based businesses. And so we help them, build their offer, build their, the mechanism that they use to serve their clients. We help them build a delivery process and everything, and we've helped 11 people get to $1 million a year. So, the internet has created a ton of opportunity for people with a little bit of intuition into specific human needs that they can fill and everything, and I can get into all of that, but that's basically what I do. So I'm going to break this video into two parts. The first part's going to be, how I learned sales, and then the second part is going to be actually teaching you some of the things that I've learned that will really help you. So let's start with how I personally learned sales. So back when I was first getting started as an entrepreneur, I actually put out a bunch of YouTube videos regarding wedding photography, because at the time I was a wedding photographer, and that attracted to me, obviously an audience, which I started selling coaching and services to. And so that was when I first got my, beginner introduction to sales, not including actually, selling wedding photography packages to clients. But I started to just pick up on some nuances and certain things that I found really helped me close the sale. And I think at the time, I didn't even think about it necessarily being sales, if that makes sense. I was just helping, the prospect make the best decision for themselves, which is still my ethos today. And so right there already is two key takeaways that I got from just getting out there and doing it with no real experience or anything. It's help the prospect make the right decision for themselves, and don't really think of it as sales. It's definitely half art, half science, but for me, when I thought of the process as sales, it prevented me from having a legitimate conversation with a prospect that led to a decision. And so even though you can learn sales and get good sales scripts and learn sales books and everything, I've found that if you can take that knowledge and kind of put it underneath an umbrella of, I'm not a salesperson, I'm just helping somebody, that tends to help me. And some people disagree with that. Some people like the art of sales in of itself, and that's fine. But I've found that when you are thinking so heavily about what to say next and how to say it and with what tone to say it and everything, you just come off completely robotic, and it's like the prospect isn't even talking to a person, and so it just kind of, it's awkward. For example, one of my team members in my company today was 0 and 17 on his initial sales calls for my company. So he literally had 17 consults and closed none of them. And one of the problems was that he was kind of like following a script too closely, and just kind of reading each line after each line, and he didn't really understand why he was saying those things. He just said them because that's what he learned. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, you want to blend strategy with a sense of self-awareness and understanding why you're saying the things that you're saying. Because if you leave no room for the conversation to go where it naturally needs to go in order to, address certain false beliefs or certain objections, and you're just following a straight line script, then I've personally found that a lot of prospects will get started with you and your services and whatever it is that you sell for the wrong reasons. And so just be very aware of, the fact that yes, you need strategy, yes, you need a script and everything, but you also need to balance that with being a human being and not just having a sequence that you go through. Like sometimes I'll hop onto a call with a prospect and it's so obvious that they're completely ready to go. They've eaten up a ton of my YouTube content or something like that. And it's like, why would I waste 45 minutes here and go through like a script or something when it's obvious that you're good to go? And so I think maybe the force that I think you balance a script with would just be emotional intelligence and being able to read the room a little bit. But how I learned sales was I would just, like I said, put out a bunch of YouTube videos, and I'd leave a link in the description to book a consult with me to see if we're a good fit to work together, right? It's just very simple. And that led to maybe 1 or 2 calls a day, in that industry, in the wedding photography industry. And it's interesting, it was just reps. I wasn't even thinking about selling. I was just thinking about, like, I really want to, help somebody grow their business and everything, and I'd like to charge them to do so. And it's almost like, there's this thing that I've heard before called Zen beginner's mind, which is like when you're a beginner, you don't have any preconceived notions of what's right or what's wrong or what the guiding rails are. And I think, it's important that even as you level up your sales skills, that you balance those skills with, that Zen beginner's mind, that sense of like, oh, I don't have it all figured out. I'm not going to just, assume that I know all the rules here. I'm going to balance my understanding with also a childlike sense of like, this can go wherever it needs to go. So in essence, sales is in a lot of ways balancing, sort of two forces against each other. You've got Zen beginner's mind, and you've also got expertise, right? You've got following a script, but also having emotional intelligence. So a lot of sales is being able to kind of play the field and balance two forces, I've found. And this is something that it takes a long time for people to realize. It's like, it's not one or the other. So when I moved into this industry, sort of the online marketing industry and everything, I sort of changed my style a little bit. I went a little bit more bold, and I went for the sale a bit harder and everything, because I found that people, generally, like, there's something about this industry where people are super reserved about making a decision, and I don't necessarily know exactly why that was. So I had to build a better, means of getting people to commit. And that's when I actually started studying like sales books and everything, investing in sales courses and everything. And really what I gained from them was this sort of timeline. This is generally the timeline of how a sales call should go. So from the starting point to the close point, it looks something like this. First, you just set the tone. You do a little small talk, and you just ask them where they're from and everything, how their week's going, and then you ask for permission to get the call started. Hey, you good to go? From there, you tell them how the call is going to go. You're like, look, I'm just going to see, if you're a good fit and everything. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You can ask me some back. And at the end, if I think you're a good fit, we'll get started. Otherwise, it's no hard feelings. This is a good way to open up the call. And this way, you have sort of a sense of control over the future of the call, as well as making sure that they're aware that there is a decision point at the end. Because if they aren't aware of that, a lot of times they just think this is like a free coaching call, or it's something where they can just like abuse your time, which is interesting to me that people would even think that. But you just want to make sure that people are aware of exactly what's going to happen. At which point, the next two sections of the call are defining where they are currently, so their current setup or their current situation, and then their desired situation. So where they are right now, and then where they want to get. And what I mean by this is like asking questions, like say you're selling a weight loss program, you would just ask like, how much do you weigh currently? How long have you been gaining weight? What does your diet look like, or something like that, right? Just kind of probing and trying to understand everything that's going on right now, so that you can define and create contrast between where they are and where they'd like to get. And again, this generally applies to like service-based businesses, coaches, consultants, these sorts of people, because I've found other businesses, like if you're selling, gosh, I don't know, if you're selling like your nail salon, like you're not exactly going to ask like, oh, what's the state of your nails right now, and what would you like them to look like? I mean, you probably could, but in my view, this is more for services or coaching or programs that offer a transformational end. So you just want to ask questions that lead to a general understanding of where they are right now. And then you want to repeat back to them what you've learned. Like, okay, so from what you're telling me, it's this, this, and this. Am I correct on all of that? Just get their affirmation that, you understand their full situation. At this point, I always like to ask, is there anything else I should know that would help me understand, where you are right now? And then just kind of get all that data, all that information, and just write it down on a piece of pen and pad, or write it down on a Google Doc, or whatever. Just kind of have it there for reference. And then move into the desired situation. So, okay, where do you want to get? By when do you want to get there and everything? And this is often, something very important will happen here. A very skillful salesperson, if they notice that the gap between where they are and where they want to get isn't big enough to justify the expense of the program or service that they'll be investing into, 30, 40 minutes from now, if everything goes well, they will actually expand their vision. And so like, say, somebody wants to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 years. It's like, well, that's not really worth a $5,000 investment, right? Like, I think you could do more than that. So you actually expand their vision and help them understand where they're actually self-sabotaging and where they're holding themselves back from what they could be doing. That way, the gap between where they are and where they want to get is big enough to justify the expense. So just like current situation, you're asking questions that help you define where they want to get. Things like, how much weight do you want to lose? You get a very numerical answer there. How much time do you want to spend on it every single week doing it? How much effort are you willing to extend? By when do you want to get there? Timeline. And then you also want to ask an important question like, why does this matter to you? What's your why? What's your motivator? And why is this something that matters to you? If you were to achieve this weight loss, if you were to achieve this thing, what would that do for your life? What would that do for your relationships, et cetera, et cetera? And you really want to define these things, define where they are now, define where they want to get, why they want to get there, and why they no longer want to stay where they are right now. Because really, that's what the investment's about. It's about taking a leap forward and deciding to make a change. And then the final stage of the call is basically just saying, look, I think you're a good fit. If you honestly think they're a good fit, tell them that they are with, all boldness, and just be very forward and say, look, I know that I can get you here if you just follow what I'm going to give you and you do what I tell you to do, or you let us serve you or whatever, and let's get started. I can get started today. It obviously makes sense. So at that point, you go from having defined where they are to where they want to get. And in this process, you've even defined why they can't take this leap themselves. So you've defined where they are, where they want to get, and what's stopping them from doing it on their own, which is again why they'd be willing to spend money to solve this gap right here. So you just tell them, hey, this is what I think we could do. This is how we're going to do it. This is the timeline and everything. You tell them all the deliverables, and you ask them if they have any questions. And often those questions are actually just objections in disguise. It's almost like, opportunities to make your product sound even better and like a better decision and everything. And that's like the timeline that I've learned. Of course, it's the high level. I could spend a lot more time defining that and really digging into it. But like I said, this timeline needs balanced with a sense of emotional intelligence and just reading the call, which again is more of an art than it is a science. But I've found that it's important that you, like I said earlier, balance these two forces. So here's what I want to do to wrap up this video. Obviously I could spend a lot of time on sales. I can spend a lot of time, sharing with you like different strategies and everything. But a YouTube video is only going to do so much justice, and to be honest, most people only watch like 5 or 6 minutes of a YouTube video. So I can link you off to one of our top sales reps. He had a $40,000 single day in my company, and we made a little bit video about it. The link is actually here on this channel. You can just check it out, look up $40,000 day, and it's on the channel. The other thing that I can have you do is watch my free training using the link in the description, and that's going to help you know what to sell, how to sell it, how to start your business and everything. So that you actually have something to sell, so you can see the sorts of results that our students have had. They've built $11 million a year businesses. We've got, I think, 70 students that are 6 figures a year or more. So we're really good at helping people start and grow these businesses, online coaching and service-based businesses specifically. So if that interests you, check out those resources down below. But one last point before we wrap up the video. There's a lot of sales coaches, there's a lot of like sales mentors, high ticket closing programs or whatever, and I can pretty much summarize all of them with one simple piece. All you're really doing in sales is taking the amount of loss that somebody, feels that they incur by spending the money and diminishing it compared to the amount of loss they would experience by not making that decision. Humans are more motivated by avoiding loss than they are by achieving gain. And so a lot of the time when somebody's not making a decision, it's not because they don't see the value in it, but it's because you didn't do a good enough job at showing them why staying where they are is going to hurt them way more than just deciding to make this investment. And so on my calls, I like to draw out, it's like, look, like I know that this is something that's nerve-wracking for you, but if you just draw out the next year or two of staying exactly where you are, I can guarantee you that nothing's going to change. Like you are where you are because you know what you currently know, you're taking action the way you're currently taking action, and that's only going to lead to the results that you're getting currently. Nothing's going to change. And mix, that sense of risk diversion, if that makes sense, or if that's the right phrase, with actually having like a really good guarantee behind the offer that you're selling, which we have a 100% refund policy. If somebody does the work and doesn't get results, full refund, right? So we've got a lot of these secret weapons that we can pull out that inspire a prospect to move forward. So just like I said earlier, how sales is about balancing extremes, one extreme that you're balancing while you're selling is both your sales strategy as well as actually the offer and the guarantees that the offer has. This is one of the spectrums that you're balancing as well, because you can have all the sales strategy in the world, but if the offer just isn't good, then nothing's going to happen. Or you can have an incredible offer with great guarantees and amazing setup and very low sales skills, and to be honest, that might end up working better. And so you're really trying to balance both of these forces. It's not just about sales, it's not just about offer. I also see people out there who have incredible offers, but they are just garbage at sales, and so they almost like sabotage people from ever joining their program because they're overthinking it and everything. So yeah, anyway, sales is about balancing extremes, and like I said, I can go way more in depth in this video. I would recommend that video that I talked about, the $40,000 day, and if you want more sales videos, just let me know in the comments and I'm happy to make more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.